Hello, everybody, and welcome to this episode of the Closers Podcast. I'm your host, as always, Marco Alvarado. And joining me, as always, is Quinn, the Moondog, Kalani. Ah, woo! What is up, bro? How are you? We haven't done one of these kind of just you and me pods in a while. It's been a minute. How you been?
Not bad. Just in the swing of things, I guess you could say.
Right. I know that I think we haven't talked since we haven't had a podcast where it's just been you and me since you left to Hawaii. So you had to be in quarantine for 2 weeks, listening to a faulty smoke alarm detector for 2 weeks. How was that experience?
Honestly, it didn't bother me at all. The faulty smoke alarm, actually, I found comforting. It reminded me of my mama's house back in the day on Old Buffalo Road. Shout out to Cerulean, Kentucky. She had a faulty smoke alarm, so actually I slept like a baby.
Oh, wow.
But the 2-week quarantine, actually, I thought was a revelation. I think it should just be a thing. It should just be a thing from now on. People, 2 weeks, you stay inside your house. I walked out of it with a newfound appreciation for everything outside my little world in that 2-week time.
Really?
Oh, yeah, the fresh air. I'm not a big fan of sunlight, but the sunlight felt good. Grass between my toes. It was humbling, and it was very grateful. And I think everybody should do it. I think it's healthy.
Yeah, it definitely
It felt like a very healthy experience for me. So I think it should be it should just be a thing, like a 4-day work week. Everybody should do a 2-week quarantine every year.
What month would you suggest it to be during? If this 2 weeks.
That's a good question. I feel like most people would be tempted to say winter. I'm gonna say fuck that. July, the first week of July. Stay your ass inside.
I think the hard part would be if it's in July is that everyone
from July 1st to July 14th. Stay inside.
Well, the thing is, everyone would be using their AC and stuff, and like if that's the case, then like I don't know, like electrical companies would be having a fit because of just the amount of power being used during that time.
Until they issued the bill.
Yeah. Well, I just mean being a Californian, as you know, we have to deal with many fires around the state all the time.
That's true.
Due to faulty power lines and, increased power usage during the summer to keep everybody cool.
I actually had an idea for the state of California. Check this out.
Okay.
What if we repainted all the roads in California from black to either a light shade of gray or white?
White roads. I think the gray is
cool down the temperature on the ground. I saw a stat somewhere. I'm gonna pull it up, but I saw some places doing this, and it lowered the temperature degree on the ground significantly.
That wouldn't surprise me. I mean, I think that's a good idea to have lighter shaded roads. Maybe not white because it could
probably be pretty blinding.
Yeah, it blinded people. But I mean, a medium gray, a mid gray, I wouldn't hate that. I never understood why we didn't do that as like a little kid, being like, why is the sidewalk a different color than the street? Like, I don't understand. Never made sense to me. Why shouldn't everything just be this color? But
they've done it in LA a little bit. Here we go. Pull it up on CBS.
Good old CBS. Home of Tony Romo. That's foreshadowing.
Let's see. It says dark-colored asphalt absorbs between 80 and 95% of the sun's rays.
Wow.
Wow.
That doesn't surprise me at all.
So it says painting the streets white with a material called Cool Seal has been shown to lower the temperature on the ground by 10 to 15 degrees.
Damn.
Come on, Gavin. Gavin Newsom, you fuck boy. What you doing?
In the words of your boy Ross G, when you're cool, you're never hot.
That's right. Shout out to the God himself, the Godfather, Ross G. When you're cool, you're never hot. Those are words to live by.
What's his nickname? The Godfather?
He has several nicknames. I like to call him Ross Greenacres, the Godfather, the Minister of Cool.
I like that one. The Minister of Cool. That's cool. The Godfather's interesting because there's a man who was once beloved in your heart, Quinn, who some called the Todd Father.
Oh yeah.
And that segues us perfectly into the topic of today's episode, which is fantasy football is right around the corner. And we just set our draft date and time today for the TCP, which, if you don't know what that means, that's the Closers Podcast, Fantasy Football Alumni League.
Also known as La Liga Alvarado.
That is what it used to be called before the podcast was a thing. So it's been around for a long time. Yeah. It's been around. I believe this is going to be its 4th season.
Yeah.
I think, yeah, we're embarking on the 4th season of this league that I've been the owner of. It has been a wild ride. Many people have come in and out, but at this point, everyone in this league has been on the podcast at least once, save Spencer Cyphers, who I'm still trying to get on the podcast. I'm still trying my best.
Mr. Enigma.
Dude, he's the king of Galt himself, man. He's a busy guy.
Man of mystery.
He has a kid now, but he was the winner of the Closers Podcast Fantasy Football League last year when he played my mom in the championship game. It was a barn burner of a game, and Spencer came out on top, and my mom was very happy that he won because she told me she would have felt bad if she would have won because he just had a baby. So it worked out.
He was the runner-up the year I won too in the inaugural league. It was me and him in the finals.
Yeah.
Spencer has consistently been the most successful person in our fantasy league.
It's true. Him and Thomas Wheaton, who was on a podcast that we did last season previewing the NFL season of 2019 with Andrew Gale, who's also in the league, and Poen Narayan, who is also in the league, and Chase Lovin. He's also in it too. So hopefully we can get those guys on again to talk some football at some point, but because of, the corona restrictions and everything, it's a little difficult to get that many people on a podcast at the moment. But nonetheless, the show will go on, and we are having the league again. We are doing it again, and the day we're all going to draft is on the 6th of September, so it is this Sunday at 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, Hawaii time, Island time, 3 p.m. And I'm looking forward to it. Honestly, I was not excited for fantasy football whatsoever, but like with most sports, it takes me a minute to get in gear, to get ramped up for a sport or for the upcoming of a new season. It takes me a while to get used to like the NBA being back. It takes me a minute to get used to the NFL being back and getting into that routine of watching games and stuff. Personally, that's just how I am. Quinn, I know you're making that face. I know you're not that way, but
I've been jacked to the tits for the NFL to come back since the Super Bowl ended.
Well,
Jack to the tits.
Jack to the tits. Man.
Big old god titties.
I think I'm excited just because of this uncertainty that COVID brings. It's going to add a new wrinkle to this fantasy football season that I don't think a lot of people are thinking of or considering. Well,
it definitely means the Patriots are going to suck dick this year, so.
Well,
awesome.
Imagine it's a Sunday morning, you have your lineup set, you're waking up, you're getting ready to watch your team or your guys play on your team, and then all of a sudden, let's say you have fucking, I don't know, you have Patrick Mahomes on your team, and then all of a sudden you wake up a little late, you rush over to TV, he's not playing. The backup's starting. What happened? And you're like, you look and you see Adam Schefter. Patrick Mahomes has just tested positive for COVID. He will be out for the next 2 weeks. You're like, what the fuck? And
who is the backup for Patrick Mahomes?
That's a good
Bruce
question.
Gronkowski?
That's a good question. For some reason, I want to say Blaine Gabbert, but I don't think so. I don't know.
He's a Mizzou guy. It would make sense.
Is he?
Yeah, I'll look it up.
Interesting. But because fantasy is around the corner, and Quinn and I have not been able to talk about football for quite a long time on the podcast, we thought it was just for us to give our five of our guys that we like going into this fantasy football season, guys that you should have on your radar for this upcoming season. And then we'll close it off by giving you some hot takes on just like some predictions of what we think is going to happen this season. And then we'll give you our weekly recommendations to close out the show, and we'll send you packing, okay? So I think that's what we're going to do. Quinn, are you ready to embark on this journey of an episode?
Yeah, let's do it.
Perfect. So first, did you find the backup for Mahomes?
I think it's Chad Henne.
Oh, Chad Henne. Okay. That makes sense.
I thought it was Blaine Gabbert. It would have made sense, but Chad Henne.
Who's better, Chad Henne or Blaine Gabbert?
Blaine Gabbert.
You think so?
Yeah. Remember, he had he didn't have I wouldn't say he had a decent year. He had a D- of a year when he was with San Francisco.
Yeah.
Still passing, but D-. Chad Henne can't pass a pop quiz to save his life.
Can't pop a pap quiz. Oh, also, Matt Moore.
Matt Moore said pop a pass quiz.
Matt Moore's on the team. Yeah, Matt Moore, Chad Henne, and Mahomes are on the Chiefs. Okay.
Nice.
So I guess Chad Henne's the third string. Okay, well that's better. Matt Moore is definitely better than both of those guys. But anyways, Quinn, would you like to go first in talking about your first pick for this, five guys we like going into the fantasy season, or would you like me to start?
These are our surefire guys, right? Like you can't miss guys. Are these surprises or
if that's
a mix of both?
I have a mix of both.
You have a mix of both?
Because I feel like the surefire guys, I feel like they're surefire, but they're not popular. Like you can't miss. Like in the popular scope, people wouldn't say these guys are, but I think that you can't miss with them. So those are the guys I kind of targeted. But if you have just like straight up chalk, then that's fine. I mean,
all right. Well, I'm gonna go with the guy who, in my opinion, I wouldn't say he's can't miss, but I think he's gonna have a breakout year, a better year than his previous 2 years. And you could say when you get this guy, the cup's always half full.
Oh my God.
Because it is number 10 for the LA Rams, your future Super Bowl champs of the 2020-2021 season, Cooper Kupp. Why do I like Cooper Kupp?
He's on Cooper your team. Kupp.
Yes, he's on my team, but he's also very reliable, dependable. The only time he wasn't dependable is when he tore his ACL in the Rams Super Bowl bid year. 2 years consecutively with 1 year, his rookie year, just shy of 1,000 yards. Second year, 1,000 yards. Third year, I think he will eclipse that. I mean, he came right out the gate last year. His first 5 games, he had over 100 yards receiving.
Interesting. How many games did he play last year?
That I can't tell you how many games he played last year. I think he might have missed 1 game, 1 or 2
Really?
games.
I thought he was hurt for a majority of the season.
No. That was the year before last when he tore his ACL, and he missed the whole back half of the season.
Yeah. Okay.
But no, this year I'm expecting giant things out of Cooper Kupp. I'm expecting more production. I'm also expecting the offense to lean on him more now that the Todd father is gone with his arthritic knee. And the inclusion of Van Jefferson, who I think is a sleeper choice for Offensive Rookie of the Year, I think is really going to open up passing lanes for Cooper Kupp, who I feel is one of the best route runners in the league to have a breakout year. So my number 1 choice is Cooper Kupp.
Wow. When would you take him, personally?
Oh, I wouldn't take him till somewhere in the back 6 to 12 rounds.
No, okay.
But as far as receivers go, I feel he is one of the most dependable receivers you can get. My experience with drafting receivers, it's fucking hot and cold, always.
Yeah.
Like, week one, they'll have a 20-point season, and then the next week, they'll fucking fall off for one reception, 9 yards.
Yeah.
I feel Cooper Kupp is going to be Mr. Dependable. So I'm going Cooper Kupp.
What's interesting is with wide receiver talk, you're always in part banking on the quarterback to get him the ball too. So in that respect, are you confident in Jared Goff this season? We can get the Rams talk out of the way for the episode now. Are you confident in Jared Goff? Because I think he's going to be more soft this season than last season, personally.
No, I am confident in Jared Goff, especially in the first half of the season. We'll see how our offensive line, holds up.
Mm-hmm.
If the offensive line can remain healthy, and if Cam Akers can get going, along with Malcolm Brown, who's our veteran running back who used to be the longtime backup to Todd Gurley.
Yeah.
Now it's probably be more of a dual role sort of thing. Tyler Higbee's really starting to get into his groove. Robert Woods has always been, dependable, 800 to 1,000 yards. I already spoke about Van Jefferson. I'm predicting, bold prediction, that the Rams have 3 1,000-yard receivers.
Oh, my God.
Jesus. Yeah. Book it.
I've never
Book it, J.K. Rowling.
I've never
Book it.
heard such a homer pick in my life. Like that is fucking
While
wild.
I'm at it, let me just say it now because I can't say it on next week's podcast with Gabby. Fuck the city of Seattle. Fuck all the people who live in Seattle and your filthy fucking football team. You filthy fucks. Fuck all of you.
I don't understand. I don't get it. I don't understand your disdain for that city, which you've never been to. But
This is how I grew up. See, I feel like in a lot of pro states, pro sports states, the rivalry is not what it used to be. I grew up in the state of Kentucky, and in the state of Kentucky, it's split right down the middle. You got the Big Blue Nation versus the Louisville Cardinals, and that is a hatred that runs deep. I have seen fights started.
Yeah.
Over this. That is the ilk that I come from.
Yeah.
I fucking despise my divisional rivals. I fucking hate them. I hate their families. I hate everything about them. I don't agree that you should shake hands with your divisional rival after the game.
Jesus Christ. Yeah, that's definitely
Shouldn't happen.
That's definitely a southern mentality in terms of sporting, I would say.
I hate the San Francisco Niners slightly less. I can tolerate the Arizona Cardinals like one tolerates a kid with epilepsy. If Kurt Warner had never played for the Cardinals, it'd be fuck the Cardinals too. But because Kurt Warner played for the Cardinals, they get one of these. Not a thumbs up, not a thumbs down. And respect for Kyler Murray for being one of the first, if not the first, biracial, half Asian franchise quarterbacks. So I do respect that.
So before we move on, I know I'm already going to be unloading about I'm going to ask this question. I already know what I'm getting myself into when I ask this question, but why do you unjustly hate Russell Wilson?
Because he's the quarterback for the Seahawks.
Okay.
It's that simple.
Okay.
It is legitimately that simple.
If he went, I don't know, if Jared.
No. If you're a Seahawk, you're a Seahawk for life, and I hate your fucking guts.
No, but what I'm saying is, if he one day in the future plays for the Rams, you still hate him even though he's your quarterback?
Yeah.
So any player that has played for the Seahawks and the Rams, you hate.
If he came and played for the Rams, I would hate him like one hates their sexually abusive uncle. He's still your uncle, but he also diddled your butthole. Fuck Russell Wilson.
Jesus Christ.
And that's just how I feel. That's how I feel sports should be. Sports would be a healthier place if we all felt this way.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm glad we got that out of the way.
If people use sports as their outlet for hatred, maybe there'd be less hatred in the streets. Just saying.
Maybe. I don't know. I don't know.
Outside of sports, I'm a very passive individual.
Okay. Well,
I mean, do you not feel any sort of hatred or resentment for the Chargers, the Broncos, or the Chiefs? How could you not?
I hate the Broncos and the Chiefs because in my lifetime they're the two teams that have prospered while the Raiders have floundered. But that is more on the Raiders being inept than the Chiefs and Broncos being good, even though they've had really good teams and they deserve to be up there and in that spot. But me hating those franchises because my team hasn't been good, that's where that hatred used to come from when I was like a kid and I didn't like those franchises. Now it's just the thing of like, there's just like painful memories attached to seeing my team lose to those guys consistently, that it's just like, why can't we just get past them? So it's more like I have an angst for my team and I channel that angst directly at those two franchises. The Chargers have been basically right there with the Raiders. In my opinion, they're more tortured than the Raiders because for the past 20 years, they've been on the cusp of being a really good team and they just cannot get out of their own way, or they can't not be injured. They just always get fucked. Whereas the Raiders have just been like abysmal. So like they don't even have a chance when it comes to December. So that's why I'm not like, I don't like the Chiefs and the Broncos, but it's not like I don't want to fucking, I'm not going to disparage the entire city just because there's a franchise in those cities that I am not a fan of. But that's just me.
What about their fan base?
What about their fan base?
How do you feel about their fan base? Their fan base is part of the franchise, is an essential part of the franchise. So if you hate the Chiefs and the Chargers, do you hate the fans of the Chiefs and the Chargers?
No, I don't hate the fans. I more so, I roll my eyes at the fans. It's like when you're in high school and there's like, you have those different cliques of people. You have like the super popular football player dudes, and then you have like the cowboy hicks, and then you have, your the different cliques around the school. And when
Talking
you
about the FFA.
Yeah, all that type of shit. And like when you walk by a certain group of people that you just you don't necessarily like, but you don't hate them. It's just like, oh my God, you're kind of fucking annoying. Like you just roll your eyes and you keep going. That's kind of how I react to when I see a group of Broncos fans or a group of Chiefs fans. I roll my eyes. Luckily, I'll never have to see a group of Chargers fans because that doesn't exist. So we'll be fine with that. I'll be fine with that. But nonetheless, moving on, my first guy for who I'm just sold on this fantasy season is Davante Adams of the Green Bay Packers.
The Bulldog himself.
Yeah, he old friend of Derek Carr's. They both played at Fresno State together, and Davante Adams has been consistent when he's been on the field for the past, like, his entire career almost. Ever since, let's see, he had
Come on now, Marco. Come on.
He had 3 yards shy of an 1,000-yard season last year, and he only played 12 games.
Was he hurt? Oh, yeah, must have been.
Yeah, he got hurt. The season prior, he had 13 over close to 1,400 receiving yards, and he's gotten over 800 the 2 seasons prior. So in 15 and 14, he had about 450 receiving yards, give or take, in both those seasons. But he's been hurt in every season except 2016. He's missed games. So, well, and his first season, 2014, he's missed games. So what I'm saying is Davante Adams, first of all, is very reliable, very dependent when he's on the field. He's gonna get catches, he's gonna get touches, he's gonna get yards for you. He is also gonna get touchdowns because in 2018, when he was on the field, he missed one game in 2018. He got 13 touchdowns, and you have to also look at the rest of the receiving corps in Green Bay with Marquez Valdez-Scantling and Geronimo Allison. Like, those guys get hyped up every year as like, oh, this is the year that like one of them is going to break out and become the sidekick to Davante Adams. But honestly, like, I don't see that happening. It doesn't look, from what I've heard, it doesn't look like any of those guys, anyone they drafted at the wide receiver position, no one's going to be able to really like influence the game as much as Davante Adams does remotely, or the way what's his name? Their running back. Their running back. Who's their running back?
Jones.
Aaron Jones, yeah. Or the way Aaron Jones impacts the game. You're just not going to see it.
Aaron Jones is one of the best running back receiving. I like Aaron Jones a lot. I liked him last year. He actually got me a lot of points.
Oh yeah, me too.
He's one of the best receiving backs in the league.
He was almost going to be on my list, but I decided to go Davante Adams because I had him last year. And I just really like Davante Adams. I think Aaron Rodgers, yeah, he may have lost a step a little bit, but I think Davante Adams is that good. And especially another season in their system. I think, who's their coach now? Is it Matt LaFleur? I think it might be Matt LaFleur. I'm not. Yeah. Another season in his system. They're going to be able to do more with him. And their O-line, they upgraded it a little bit. So, I mean, I really like Davante Adams. Yeah, I would honestly, if I didn't have the third pick in the draft, if I had a lower pick, if I had maybe 7 or 8, I would take him easy with one of those first round.
We also got to consider this is a make or break year for Aaron Rodgers.
It's true.
Right?
Yeah.
Is this Aaron Rodgers last year in Green Bay?
We'll see. I don't know. I'm not ready to make a prediction like that, but I can tell you Davante Adams is going to pop off this year. So if you want to reward yourself, draft Davante Adams. And I will now give up the floor. Quinn, who is your second guy?
Well, I will say I agree on the Davante Adams pick. I think currently NFL.com has him as the top-rated fantasy receiver.
Mm-hmm.
No, Michael Thomas. So he's right behind Michael Thomas.
Yeah, they were 1 and 2 last year.
By 1 point.
Yeah.
So my next pick, I'm actually going to do a pass. This is who you should pass on.
Oh, okay.
And that person is a quarterback, and I'm telling you, you should pass on Deshaun Watson.
Ooh.
And here's my justification for passing on Deshaun Watson. Last year, he threw for 3,800 yards.
Yeah.
Just about a third of those yards are contributed directly to DeAndre Hopkins, who is no longer there. DeAndre Hopkins is such a talented receiver. He is such a fulcrum of that offense. Without DeAndre Hopkins, the Texans' offense will flounder, and they will flounder hard. They don't have a running game. Their next best receiver is Will Fuller, who's much more of a deep threat than an intermediate or a short route guy.
Mm-hmm.
And the Texans' offensive line is not dependable. And personal opinion, Bill O'Brien is a fuckboy of an offensive coach.
But they have David Johnson. How could you hate?
There's a reason why David Johnson isn't in Arizona.
That's one guy that I really don't like is David Johnson. Not because of anything that I like that he did to me. I never drafted David Johnson, but the fact that like every year he was like, oh, this is the guy, number 1 overall, David Johnson, you got to take him. And then he gets hurt like the first game. He's literally done nothing. Like, it makes no sense why he got so much hype for so long. It didn't make any sense to me.
He had like 2 really solid years, And then where'd he go?
Yeah.
Downhill. He is literally a downhill runner, as in his career went downhill.
That's the thing though, is I've talked about this with some of my friends, and I always say exactly what I just said. Like, I don't understand the hype, and they respond with exactly what you just said, where, well, he had 2 good years, and my response to that is, what 2 years? I've been watching football ever since like 2010, and I have not seen David Johnson do anything remotely spectacular. Maybe that's just my ignorance, but
it was his rookie year, and then his following year, he had 2 solid years. I'll pull up his official stats, but I remember his rookie year, he actually showed out really well. Okay, no, not his rookie year. He only had 581 yards. His sophomore year, He had 1,200 yards and 16 touchdowns.
And that's it?
And that's actually it. So I was actually incorrect. I was incorrect saying that he had 2 good years. He literally had 1 good year.
Dude, he's like that one white running back, white fullback from the Browns that randomly got
Peyton Hillis?
Yeah, Peyton Hillis. He's like him. He's the black Peyton Hillis. I'm telling you.
In 2018, he did have 940 yards and 7 touchdowns, but he only averaged 3.5 yards per carry. So,
oh my God.
Yeah. The Texans, to me, the whole offense of the Texans relied heavily on DeAndre Hopkins. That's why DeAndre Hopkins is a reception machine.
Yeah. I guess now that I'm not going to bring up DeAndre Hopkins in my list
in
at
Arizona.
All. I'm not bringing him up. So if he's on your list, we'll wait to talk about him.
He is not.
Okay.
He is not.
So I just want to say I'm not a believer in DeAndre Hopkins, at least for this season in Arizona.
Well, I think Kyler Murray is going to have the sophomore slump.
Okay.
I mean, I don't think Kyler Murray's a bad quarterback. In fact, I think he's a franchise quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
But every quarterback has a sophomore slump. Every quarterback. So.
Sure. Yeah.
I mean, it's a softball prediction.
Yeah.
But I mean, if past his prologue, then Kyler Murray will not have as good a season as he had his rookie year, or he'll have a season equivalent to.
Well, I just think too is because DeAndre Hopkins is a talented receiver. He's one of the best in the game, but because of everything that's happened this offseason, how teams have barely been able to practice with each other, how there was no preseason games.
Right.
I feel like that's going to be a detriment to DeAndre Hopkins because how has he made his money over his career? It's because he has built connections with every single quarterback that he had, even when he had shitty quarterbacks, even with Brock Osweiler, he was able to get his, right? So he did that because he made a point to make sure to have that connection, and he wasn't able to do that with Kyler Murray. They've just been able to get together. Maybe if he pops off this year, then it's a testament to him as a receiver and as just a person at being able to just connect with his quarterback. But I don't think that's going to happen.
Something to consider is that he's moving into one of the best defensive divisions in football. 2 games out of the year, he's going to be manned up by Richard Sherman. 2 games out of the year, he's going to be manned up by Jalen Ramsey. And then, whoever the Seahawks have on their shit roster.
No,
but
God. Jesus Christ.
I mean, it's not like he kudos to go into a challenging division.
Yeah.
I mean, I know I'm a homer, but I think, a lot of people would agree that the NFC West is one of the top 3 divisions in professional football.
Currently, I would agree.
So.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm a hard pass on Deshaun Watson. Nothing against Deshaun Watson. I think he's a franchise quarterback. I think he's a stud athlete, but he has no help on that offense.
In this draft, yeah.
Bill O'Brien and the Houston Texans have done plumb little to get him that help.
So in this draft, basically, you would just
pass on Deshaun Watson.
Okay.
I think you could. There are other quarterbacks.
That's fair.
I'd go Jimmy G before I'd go Deshaun Watson.
Yeah. Yeah, I'd probably say the same, just because of Kittle. I think
Yeah,
Kittle puts him over the top.
I
But
concur.
speaking of tight ends, though, that leads us into my next guy, who I think you need to target. A sleeper, sort of a sleeper. At the tight end position is Evan Ingram of the New York Football Giants. Evan Ingram is a stud tight end who has just, been banged up by injury. We've seen this story time and time again. My guy, what's his name from the Bengals? Tyler
Eifert?
Eifert, yeah, dude. I remember I had him. I picked him up off waivers that year. He went dumb with touchdowns, and back in like 2016, I believe, 2015, and he's basically like he has had that bad of luck with injuries, just like Tyler Eifert. But Evan Ingram is more talented than Tyler Eifert, in my opinion, because he's not just a touchdown machine. He's basically a big-bodied receiver. He's like a George Kittle. He's in the same vein as him. But like I said, the most unfortunate thing is he just hasn't been able to stay healthy. Last season, he only played in 8 games. But he still was able to get 467 yards off those 8 games, and Daniel Jones was his quarterback. Now, Daniel Jones, reports that I've seen, is that Daniel Jones is looking really good in camp, and their new head coach is actually really hard on the team.
Joe Judge.
We'll see how Joe Judge, how that works out. But everything I've heard is that currently Daniel Jones in particular has responded very well to Joe Judge's ways of doing things. So that's only going to bode well for Evan Ingram. Now, a lot of people are worried with Golden Tate there, with, I believe, Sterling Shepard is there, and I believe there's another receiver. I forgot their name. But
I'll pull up the receivers for the Giants.
Oh, thank you. So they have, and then they also have Saquon Barkley. They have a full squad.
Facts.
And people worry, how is Evan Ingram going to fit into that? Is he going to be more of a blocker? Is he going to have to like get out of play? Is he going to have to cater to that offense to make it run, or is he going to be a focal point like Travis Kelce, like Zach Ertz, or like Kittle? And I'm here to tell you that the type of quarterback Daniel Jones is, he's not the type of guy who's going to dump off to Saquon Barkley, because Saquon Barkley, they're going to just run him. He might dump off here and there, but his dump off guy is going to be Evan Ingram. He's going to dump off to Evan Ingram. They're not going to, like, Evan Ingram is a great route runner. He can run, and he's very fast. He has really
super athletic.
He can get down the field real quick, but tight ends inherently are that safety net for quarterbacks when they're trying to go in the middle of the field. And for a sophomore quarterback, that's invaluable to have a guy like that. And it's going to be his 4th season. He's a vet. He's, at this point, he's a vet. He knows the ins and outs and everything. So I'd have to say, Evan Ingram's my guy. I would not mind drafting Evan Ingram. I'd personally be cool drafting him in the 3rd round. I'm that stoked on him. That's me.
I like Evan Ingram. I agree with everything you said. I think he's, athletic enough in the same vein as a Kittle, as a Kelce, to where you could line him off the line in the slot receiver position and have some success there. Speaking of receivers for the Giants, you mentioned Sterling Shepard and Golden Tate. Well, frankly, that's all who you need to mention, because there's a bunch of nobodies at the position besides him. Evan Ingram definitely has the potential, I think, to be an 800-yard tight end. I see him more than a safety net. When you think of the safety net tight end, I think of the tight ends for the Baltimore Ravens. Those guys are safety nets.
Mark Andrews.
I'm not. And Hayden, is Hayden Hurst still on the?
Yeah. Well, or did he go to Seattle? He might have gotten traded.
He might have gone elsewhere, but the way the Baltimore Ravens use their tight ends are a safety net, and that's, I don't mean that despairingly.
Yeah.
But Evan Ingram, I think, definitely has the potential to be an 800-yard tight end. I do think the 3rd round is a bit of a reach.
Yeah.
I would lean more towards, I think, the 6 to 8 range.
Yeah.
But no, I think that's a good pick.
I Oh yeah, Hayden Hurst is on Atlanta. He took Austin Hooper's spot in Atlanta. They're gonna try
That's
to
right.
feature him.
Austin Hooper went elsewhere.
Yeah, he's with the Browns now, so we'll see how that goes. We'll see how that goes. Yeah, I'm not. I honestly, I'll tell you right now, I do not have a Cleveland Brown on my list at all. So
right, you could pass on the entire Browns franchise, to be honest with you.
You're not a believer in them this season.
I guarantee you, this is Baker Mayfield's last year as a starter.
Wow.
Nick Chubb, is Nick Chubb out?
No,
I know he hurt. I know he got hurt.
He's still
practice.
There. I haven't heard anything about that.
Yeah, I heard somewhere that Nick Chubb got hurt. Let me double check on that. But I'm not a believer in Baker Mayfield. His delivery is so goddamn slow to get the ball to his receivers, and he has outstanding receivers.
It does look like when you give like a 10-year-old the controller for Madden, and you give him like a quarterback with good speed, and he just like runs out of the pocket and tries to throw on the run every play. That's what it looked like last season. But that was when Freddie Kitchens was there. There's a new head coach in town now.
All right. So this is according to US Today. Browns running back Nick Chubb left Monday's practice session early with an apparent injury after being tackled high and landing awkwardly on the sidelines. It was later revealed that Chubb was being tested for a possible concussion after a hit from Mack Wilson. So, concussion, 1 to 2 weeks at this point. But
I think
I'm not sold. I'm not sold on anybody on the Browns except for Nick Chubb. Nick Chubb is a stud.
But they have Kareem Hunt. They have Kareem Hunt, and apparently they're going to be utilizing him a lot more. Kevin Stefanski is the head coach. I like Kevin Stefanski a lot.
I don't know how Kareem Hunt has a job in the NFL. To be 100% honest with you, the NFL needs to take a stand on domestic violence, and it needs to be a zero tolerance stand on domestic violence.
Yeah.
I am fine with NFL players. I would rather NFL players take steroids than beat the shit out of women. So
I would agree with that. I'm definitely not disputing that.
That's my personal opinion.
All I'm saying is fantasy-wise, he is there. Right. And, he will factor in the playing time of Chubb. But we'll see. Hopefully it won't be too much, because I do like Nick Chubb. I like him as a player. I think he has a high upside, and especially in the draft. I would not mind getting him if he falls to me. He's one of those guys, if he falls to me, I'll take him. But I'm not going to, reach.
Let me ask you this. Who's the better Georgia running back that came out of that year? Nick Chubb or Sony Michel? Who do you like more this year?
Nick Chubb.
Well, I'm asking, who do you like more this year?
Nick Chubb, totally.
You like Nick Chubb more this year, fantasy-wise?
Yeah.
And Sony Michel?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I think Sony Michel's going to have a breakout year. He's not one of my picks, but I think he's going to have a great year, especially with Cam there now.
Yeah, I don't think so. I've seen a lot of Sony Michel because of Patriots games. They're always on Sunday Night Football and shit. He just is the most infuriating.
Not a believer?
He's the most infuriating running back I've ever seen. He's one of those running backs that will run into the pile. It's like there's a giant hole off to your left, and he just runs straight into the pile. It's like, dude, what are you doing? Are you just closing your eyes? It's a little frustrating. But
I mean, he's no Danny Woodhead, but he's all right.
Danny Woodhead.
Shout out to Danny Woodhead. Shout out to North Platte, Nebraska.
I miss Danny Woodhead.
I miss Danny Woodhead too, dude. He was a great specialty player.
Yeah.
If you could find the right role for Danny Woodhead, he could contribute great. When he was with the Chargers, he had, pretty solid years.
Yeah. So who's your next guy? Because
my next guy has been a staple on the Stockton Slappers, and that is Roll Tide Roll, the running back for the Tennessee Titans, the NFL leading rusher, Derrick Henry. 1,500 yards last year, 16 touchdowns, and 5 yards average per carry. And I'm thinking, and I'm feeling deep in my huevos that Derrick Henry is going to have another breakout season. I'm not saying he's going to lead the league in rushing again, but I definitely feel Derrick Henry will have a 1,200-yard season and at least 10, 12 touchdowns. Derrick Henry is a book'em.
Wow.
In Quinn Kalani's book.
How many years have you drafted Derrick Henry? I feel like you've had him every single year.
Every year. Roll Tide, boy.
Dude,
Roll Tide, roll.
he always falls to you. It's like it's so funny.
Roll Tide. Shout
Okay,
out to Papa Reeves. Roll Tide, roll.
back when we first drafted in the very first La Liga Alvarado, did you
The AFL of our league.
Yeah, the AFL of our league. Did you draft him because you 100% were like I like he's my guy, or was it just like, all right, like I guess I'll just take him cuz like he's a rookie, maybe he'll be good, What was your mindset?
Well,
Do you remember that?
I first drafted him in his sophomore year, and his rookie year was not spectacular. He didn't even break 500 yards.
Yeah, he didn't really play because of DeMarco Murray.
Yeah. In his sophomore year, he had 744 yards, and he averaged 4.2 yards a carry with 5 touchdowns. Again, not spectacular. That was the first year I drafted him. He wasn't my feature running back. He was actually in rotation. Yeah. My 2 running backs that year, my Super Bowl winning year, were Christian McCaffrey, who's, probably the number one, if not the number one ranked player in this running back in fantasy.
Mm-hmm.
And then I had Leonard Fournette in his breakout season.
Oh, yeah.
And then I would just supplement Derrick Henry. But I picked Derrick Henry because he was he was with the Tide, and a dear close friend of mine is a diehard Roll Tide Alabama fan, and I kind of I hopped on their bandwagon when I was a young Brussels sprout. So any chance I get when I'm not rocking the Manoa Rainbow Warriors gear, I'm rocking Roll Tide roll. So Derrick Henry, man, I think he's really coming into his own. Yeah. The offense, Mike Vrabel, they're really leaning into him. Yeah. They're consistently giving him his carries. A guy like Derrick Henry, his first 5 to 10 carries, they might be 3 yards, 4 yards, 3 yards. You
got to get him going.
He's the kind of guy that wears down on the defense. As the game progresses, he gets stronger.
Yeah.
So, man, book him. Derrick Henry, big fan. Roll Tide, roll.
No, I love Derrick Henry going into this next season. I think that he's a little underrated, which is ridiculous to say because people think there's no way he can do that again. And even if he doesn't do exactly what he did last season again, just drafting him and having him be your flex or your RB2 on your roster, dude, how could you pass that up? And the thing too, it's like if you watch Derrick Henry play, like you said, over the course of a game, he wears on a defense, and that's when he starts making his money and getting his yards towards the end of the game. Throughout the entire season, it's that way because you start the season, every team's fresh. By the end of it, like everyone's beat up. You're playing against some like second tier players, like you're playing against backups, and you have a guy like Derrick Henry who's basically an Iron Man. I mean, he might have had he might have gotten dinged up here and there, but generally he's been on the field. He's been healthy at least. Maybe he hasn't played like his first 2 seasons. He was more of a backup. And
he opens up the defense for Tannehill and for the Titans receivers.
Exactly.
He's invaluable. His presence alone is an offensive weapon.
Yeah, it's very much like how the Ravens use Mark Ingram, but just Derrick Henry is a bigger body,
better version.
And what's interesting is that when
another Roll Tide guy.
When Ryan Tannehill runs, the Tennessee Titans are so much better, and that just helps Derrick Henry more because it just opens up so much, not just for the receivers, but also for the lanes in terms of the lanes that Derrick Henry can run through. So I love the pick. Derrick Henry, I hope I get him too, but I have a feeling for some reason you are going to get him again.
Best stiff arm in the NFL right now, Derrick Henry.
I would say
truly
so.
Believe he's literally decapitated people. I think he is going to fall in the back half of the first round. I'm not going to say, with me having the first pick of the back half of the first round.
Yeah.
At pick 6, it's Derrick Henry's there. I would be surprised if Derrick Henry's there. I'm not a believer in Zeke, and I'm definitely not a believer in Kamara this year.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I would be surprised. I could see Patty Mahomes and Lamar Jackson going in the top 5. Chris McCaffrey, Saquon Barkley's probably going to go in the top 5.
Yeah.
And then probably Michael Thomas.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So Derrick Henry's right there in that 6 to 10 range in the first round. Depending on who's available, I think Derrick Henry's, he could be Mr. Dependable at that running back position. Love Derrick Henry.
We will see. We will definitely see. I have a couple things to say about Christian McCaffrey, but I will save it for the end of our discussion. I think you're going to be a little surprised. But my next pick is, okay, I'm admittedly on this bandwagon through thick and thin, and I don't care. And I think you probably already know exactly who I'm talking about. But my man, Josh Allen. Dude. We're
about to have a long discussion about Josh Allen.
Dude, Josh Allen, I am all in on Josh Allen this year. Devin Singletary, Singletary, I think that's his name. He's on the, I'm pretty sure it's Devin Singletary.
Yeah, he's their tailback.
Yeah, Devin Singletary. Okay, you have a immortal Frank Gore still out there, still in the running back room. The legend. The dude, Benjamin Button himself, Frank Gore. And then you have
True that.
And then you have, not only has the defense gotten better, but you have Stephon Diggs. Stephon Diggs, bro. You trade for
best receivers in the league.
Finally, they have a guy. Stephon Diggs has been wanting to be the number 1 guy with a team ever since he's been drafted. The rise of Adam Thielen. He's a Minnesota guy. They had to get rid of Diggs. He's Thielen's a Minnesota through and through. So
he's a homer.
Yeah, exactly. So I think it's a great fit.
I agree.
Their coach, who looks like Bill Burr, I really like him. He's a great
McDermott?
Yeah, Doug McDermott. Dude, I love that guy. I think he's a great coach.
Bill's Mafia.
Yeah, Bill's Mafia, dude. They're live and well. And the thing is, in Josh Allen's first season, he threw for a little over 2,000 yards.
Yeah.
Off of a 52 completion percentage. And last season, in 2019, he threw for 3,000 yards, a little over 3,000 yards on a 58, or round up 59 completion percentage.
Yeah.
I'm
going to get in on. Go ahead.
That's a whole 1,000 yards over it. He also was healthy last season, 100% healthy. And I think a big part as to why they lost that game against the Texans, which they shouldn't have lost. They should have won that game in the playoffs. But the reason why they lost it is just because Josh Allen's maturity and IQ just still isn't there 100%. But
developing.
He made a significant stride between his rookie season and his sophomore season. I think I'm putting my money on him finishing top 10 quarterback. Easy.
Well,
I'll say top 7 quarterbacks.
On the very skimp of notes I took today, I got Josh Allen at my number 5. Book 'em players.
Oh, what?
That's right. As you said earlier, Josh Allen, 3,000 yards passing, 20 touchdowns. I believe he had less than 10 interceptions, and he had a QBR of 85%. That is all before Stephon Diggs. Stephon Diggs last year, 1,100 receiving yards, 6 touchdowns, and he was the number 2 guy in Minnesota.
And it's arguable that the Bills have the better offensive line than Minnesota.
Bills have a stellar offensive line, and their defense is stout and dependable like a dark draft beer.
All they need is a solid tight end to round up their team.
Oh, yeah. They just need that safety net. That's what Josh Allen was missing in the fourth quarter against the Texans. He had no one to drop off to.
Yeah.
He was rolling out every fucking play and just slinging it like Brett Favre. He has the arm talent of Brett Favre, but he needs a tight end to where he can dump it to. He needs that fourth option.
Yeah, he does.
If the Bills could get a tight end, it would increase their red zone production.
Mm-hmm.
It would increase Josh Allen's QBR, his completion percentage. That is literally the only position the Bills I find are below a C grade at.
Yeah.
So I'm also sold on Josh Allen. I'm big on him this year. I knew you would be too.
Oh, dude, I've rolled with Josh Allen ever since he was a rookie. I don't know. I just love how he plays. He's that guy. Like when he plays, you could tell he gives a shit, dude. Like
dude, he plays like Brett Favre.
Dude, he's gonna go out there. He's gonna do anything he can to win the fucking game. He's gonna if he can't throw it to anybody, he's gonna run, and he's decisive. Because with Derek Carr, I'm a Raiders fan. I watch nothing but Derek Carr games. Derek Carr, he sits back and then he waits too long to decide what to do. Josh Allen is just like, all right, first option, no. Second, no. I'm not even looking at the third. I see a lane. I'm running. I'm gone.
Right.
Whereas, like, guys like Derek Carr, they're too hesitant. They're hoping something develops. And then before they know it, they get sacked or they throw it away. Josh Allen, he's becoming more decisive. And I love seeing that in a quarterback. Got nothing but love for Josh Allen. I would definitely
deceptively athletic.
Very deceptively. He's a big dude, too. He's like...
Yeah.
He's like, he's 6'5". Holy shit. He's a big guy.
Yeah. And dude, he has a cannon. Like he is a legit cannon.
Yeah.
And Stephon Diggs is one of the better deep post route runners and freaking fly route runners in this league.
Yeah.
Remember when the Vikings beat the Saints? Mm-hmm. The miracle in the Metrodome, they called it?
Yeah.
Dude, I think Stephon Diggs is going to carry the Buffalo Bills to win the AFC East.
I agree. I have them winning the AFC East. It's going to be a very, very interesting season. I hope the Bills go far in the playoffs. It'd be really fun to see them be able to have some success. Yeah. But fantasy-wise, love Josh Allen. And I would definitely draft him in like the 7th round. Easy 7th round pick.
I'd say if anyone is looking at their playoff projections, drop the Texans, book the Bills.
Yeah. I agree with that. All right, but, what's your next guy?
Well, since we had the same guy,
uh-huh.
So I kind of just went after you. Why don't you go ahead and go on to your next guy?
Okay. My next guy. Now, this one I think we're definitely going to disagree on, but I'm ready to defend him.
All right.
My guy is James Conner.
Of the Steelers.
Of the Steelers.
I'm not against it. I think depending on where you place him.
I think James Conner is a great pickup this season. A lot of people aren't really thinking about the Steelers because Big Ben's back. I'm not a believer in Big Ben, but that's exactly why I am a believer in James Conner, because I think the Steelers are going to find out very quickly that Big Ben just doesn't have it anymore. And at that point, what are you going to do? Put in Duck Hodges? At that point, you're going to have to run it. So you're going to have to run it. And who's your running back? James Conner. Like, it's that.
Put in Duck Hodges.
What?
Put in Duck Hodges. He has a great football name.
He does. But just from a pure team standpoint, I don't like where the Steelers are going in their team makeup. They're heading downhill fast, just like you just said earlier, Quinn. I feel like their future isn't really the brightest, and even teams that don't have a bright future, you can still get some production out of them in terms of fantasy, and I think James Conner is that guy. Right. Back when he got hurt the previous 2 seasons, actually, both seasons he got hurt, which is caused a pause, but he in 2018 when he kind of came alive when Le'Veon Bell was holding out, he started 12 games, played in 13, started 12, and rushed for close to 1,000 yards. He got 973 yards. And last season he played 10 games, only got 464. But I think that he'll bounce back, and I think that even if he plays only 14 games this season, even if he does get hurt, he's one of those guys that I think is going to start the season out strong. And at a certain point in the season when you feel like you're giving up a little hope on him, or if you're watching the games, you see him, he looks a little banged up, or he's not as 100% as you think, as the fantasy, manager, you see that, trade him, try to get somebody else. Or you could use that James Conner spot and try to you could drop him and get somebody on the waiver who you think is promising.
Right.
I think that James Conner is a safe floor guy. I think he's a guy what you're going to get, and getting him around like the 6th, 7th, 8th rounds if he's still there, maybe 5th if you really if there's a run on running backs at some point, I think it'd be fine to take him in those spots. He does have a chance at I would say getting close to 800 yards this upcoming season. I think he could surpass that easily.
Yeah, I'd say 800 is very feasible.
Yeah, and I think he could definitely do it. He has the talent for it. It's just will he stay healthy? And even if he doesn't, you still will get production from him. So I think James Conner,
right.
Just because they don't really have anybody else other than Juju, but they need a quarterback for Juju to be.
Let me ask you this about the Steelers.
Yeah.
Do you think the Tomlin dynasty is ending? I think this year is it.
I think this is the year. This is it.
I mean, they're competing for second place in their division. Like, they're not catching the Ravens.
I would argue that they're playing for third.
Oof.
I think that them and the Bengals are right there, and I think they lose just because I think Joe Burrow is actually going to pop off. I think Joe Burrow is going to be good.
Dude, Homer. Joe Burrow. The Ohio Homer.
Dude, I think he's going to be good.
Isn't he from Ohio?
Yeah, he is. He's from Ohio.
Interesting.
I think he's from a town. I think he's from a town closer to Cleveland than Cincinnati. But I mean, whatever.
They're both shit places. But actually, I've been to Cincinnati. Cincinnati is actually a pretty nice city. I agree, man. I think James Conner. I mean, I would have him on the back half of running backs I'd be looking at.
Yeah.
After my first two choices.
Mm-hmm.
But a rotational guy, I think he's perfect for.
Yeah.
I honestly think him and Austin Eckler of the San Diego Chargers will have a very similar season.
Really? I think Austin Eckler. Now this is a hot take, and this was actually going to be one of the hot takes I was going to say later, but I guess we're just lumping everything, which is fine. No worries. I think Austin Eckler is going to finish top 5 in running backs. Dude, think Austin Eckler, the entire offense is going to run through him. Other than Keenan Allen, Mike Williams had one good season, just like David Johnson. He hasn't really been able to do anything since. You lost Tyrell Williams to the Raiders, and then
you got Hunter Henry.
You have Hunter Henry, who finally is back. Hopefully, he stays healthy. And
right.
But I think that Austin Eckler has shown that he can play between the tackles. He can catch. He can line up at receiver if you need him to line up at receiver. He can do anything you need him to do, and he's the best kind of utility back that you could get. And I just think Austin Eckler is in a different class than James Conner at this point.
Really?
But I understand what you mean in the sense of the team is going to run through that guy.
I think I'm seeing Austin Eckler. I'm thinking somewhere in that 800-yard range, 800 yards running, 300 to 400 yards receiving. I think Austin Eckler, I think he'll exceed in touchdowns. That's where his fantasy value is at, in my opinion. Touchdowns and receptions.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
So as far as like running yards wise, I think him and James Conner will have a similar season, somewhere in that 800-yard range. I think the teams, the Chargers and the Steelers, will also have similar seasons, playing for that 3 spot in their division.
I think that the Chargers are the better team. I would say. I just think that the division is harder.
I would agree with that.
Yeah.
I think Steelers are going to have a top 10 draft pick, if not top 5 draft pick next year.
Yeah. They have to. Dude, are they going to get Trevor Lawrence?
They have to reset.
Do you think they're getting Trevor Lawrence?
The golden boy. Sunshine. 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 Sunshine himself, huh?
Yeah. Do you think Sunshine is coming to Pittsburgh?
They ain't had sunshine in Pittsburgh for a long time, but I don't know, man. Pittsburgh has had a formula for the entirety of its franchise: smash mouth football and a freaking steel curtain defense. And right now, it does. Now their defensive back end, their defensive backs, improved greatly at the end of last season
with Minkah Fitzpatrick.
I would like to see their defensive line get better.
Yeah.
To me, that's where you win games up front.
Yeah.
And offense, Big Ben's past due.
Yeah.
2 years past due.
He's becoming like an Eli Manning at this point, and it's kind of sad.
Right.
Yeah.
Respect to Juju Smith-Schuster, someone from Hawaii who I have a lot of respect for.
Yeah.
But, also I think Juju Smith-Schuster is one of the best locker room guys you could have. If that wasn't proven with the freaking Antonio Brown fiasco, if you're going to build around Juju Smith-Schuster and James Conner.
Yeah.
He's your Hines Ward, and James Conner can, he's not really a Jerome Bettis, but he can kind of fit that role.
He can suffice for now.
Right.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the Steelers are in a rebuilding phase. It is what it is. But
I just think they're one of those franchises that will never admit that they are actually rebuilding. Like they'll never
they're
be
too
like,
proud.
Yeah, they're never going to be like, all right, we need to reset. Like the Dolphins did, where they're like, all right, we know what we are. We're just going to be in this spot. Like the Steelers always believe that they have a shot. They're like the Cowboys in that sense. A lot of those 1970s teams that like were good during that time have that complex. The Raiders used to be like that, but we've been beaten down so hard that our spirits have been broken, and we're not like that. We're not that team anymore. But for a long time,
the Steelers are the Northern Cowboys.
Yes, I would
they're
say.
The Yankee Cowboys.
The Yankee Cowboys, definitely. Yeah, yeah. What is your next pick?
My final and fifth pick. This is going to be a pass. I think it's a hard pass, and it really hurts me to say this. I think Todd Gurley is a hard, definite pass.
Oh, dude, that's on my list too. He was going to be one of my passes, but I have another guy I want to say. But yeah.
Last year, Todd Gurley, in and out of games, in and out of rotation, 857 rushing yards. He did have 12 touchdowns. Which anything over 10 touchdowns is admirable.
Yeah.
But 31 receptions, that's a drop-off. And the worst sign, 3.8 yards per carry. For someone who was considered to be a bell cow running back, an all-purpose running back, a three-down running back, that is a sign that does not bode well. And considering he has fucking arthritis.
Doesn't he have it in both knees?
Yeah. It really pains me to say this because, he's one of the great Ram running backs.
Uh-huh.
But his career is reminiscent to me of like a Terrell Davis.
Ah.
Like he had, real 5 great years. Offensive player of the year. He was up for it 2 years, won one, went to the Super Bowl. But, yeah. And, I mean, come on. The Atlanta fucking Falcons. Talk about a team that lets you down every year.
Yeah. The
Atlanta Falcons. And this was dangerous to me when I saw that the Falcons offensive coordinator teased the idea of giving Todd Gurley 20 to 25 carries per game.
Oh, no.
What?
Yeah.
That ain't going to last long.
Yeah, no.
Not on those 60-year-old knees.
Dude, yeah, exactly. I don't see that happening. That's crazy. Definitely not.
As much as it pains me to say this, I'm sure you'll have more to say on it. Todd Gurley is a hard pass. Hard pass.
I agree. 100%. And especially with all these younger running backs coming through right now, like I don't see a point in drafting Todd Gurley at all. Like if you want him, you could definitely if you're in a league full of smart people who understand, just like basic human anatomy, then you will be able to pick him up on waivers if you really want him that badly. So don't waste a pick to get Todd Gurley.
Right.
I don't think he's worth it, unfortunately. And it's sad because his star fell so far. And that's what I wanted to say earlier, actually, but I was waiting until we talked about Todd Gurley in a segment in order to bring it up. But Todd Gurley was the guy who saved you and won you the championship.
Yeah.
In the playoffs of the AFL version of our fantasy football league.
Yeah, he was averaging about 30 points for like the last few weeks of that season in my championship run.
Yeah.
I had a stellar run. My running back class that year is what won me. Christian McCaffrey, Todd Gurley, Leonard Fournette, and Derrick Henry. I mean, that is as legit as they come. But
that is pretty crazy. Yeah, I had no belief in any of those guys except Christian McCaffrey when you drafted all those guys. I was like, I don't understand. I don't get it.
But yeah, man. And it does pain me to say that because I do believe he's a Rams great for the time that he had. But
yeah,
I mean, is he like one of the Rams' great running backs? He's probably at number 4 behind Steven Jackson, Marshall Faulk, and Eric Dickerson. Reverse that order. Eric Dickerson, Marshall Faulk, Steven Jackson is the best running back in the Rams history of all time. But yeah, Todd Gurley, man, hard pass.
Yeah.
Bummer
I agree. It sucks. It really sucks.
But I mean, you're right. If he falls to the waivers, or even like in the last 2 rounds, if he's there, and you can have him on your bench and kind of see how his production is for the first 2 to 3 weeks.
Yeah.
Then that's an understandable pick. But
I would agree.
I mean, if secure your starters before you consider Todd Gurley would be my advice.
Yeah, Gurley's a bench player for sure. He's coming off the pine.
Yeah.
Definitely coming off the pine. So I have 3 people I want to talk about, but one of them is a do not. So I'll save that for the end. And these 2 guys are really toss-ups for me. So I'm going to talk about both of them. And I'll go
These are
with
hot takes.
These are not really hot takes. These are my last 2 guys. I couldn't decide between these 2, so I'm kind of lumping them together. A.J. Brown of the Tennessee Titans. Dude, I am
big on him.
Dude, he is going to go dumb this season. As a rookie, he got over 1,000 yards. I mean, he killed the Raiders, which is not saying much, but like he embarrassed them in Oakland. And in the playoffs, like just seeing him, he has that ability like Tyreek Hill, where like you see him when you're watching the game and you just see him run off screen because the camera's just on the quarterback. It's focused on the line and the quarterback. And you just know he's going to throw it and fucking A.J. Brown's going to be open and he's going to get like fucking 30 yards right here.
He's a stud.
Almost every time, dude. It's just a total eye test thing for me with A.J. Brown. But he's a stud. And I think last season isn't even like close to his ceiling. I think it's he ranked 5th in drops. Like 5th meaning like the best, like good. He averaged about
not dropping the ball.
Not dropping the ball. Yeah. He only had 2 drops all season. That's fucking
powerful
crazy.
AJ Brown.
Dude, that's crazy as fuck.
Those are mitts.
Definitely. Dude, it was insane. He was 7th in touchdowns. He was the wide receiver 21 last year, but I really think he's going to be top 10 and I would be glad drafting him in the 2nd round personally.
2nd round?
I would go 2nd round.
I would go 4th.
Yeah, I mean, I see it. I just when I really like a guy,
I can't argue.
When I really like a guy, I just take him. But that's just my strategy.
Right. No. I mean, I understand what you're saying. I'm big believer in the Tennessee Titans this year. Big believer in them. What I saw last year was a complete surprise. I don't think a lot of people saw the Tennessee Titans having the kind of season they had last year.
Yeah.
But I think now the pieces are in place for the Tennessee Titans to make a real Super Bowl run. As long as Ryan Tannehill can be, somewhere between that game manager and franchise quarterback. As long as Tannehill can win you 6 games, I think the Tennessee Titans can go far. I'm talking like conference championship far.
I agree. I think they can go really, really far. They would just have to get past the Ravens, who, they were a young team. They're a young team, and they have to, they needed to lose in order to kind of like humble themselves, or they had to get humbled. And the Titans, offered them that service. They gave them that service.
And
The Ravens aren't going to be the same team from last year that are just going to walk into the playoffs and expect to roll over everybody. That's not happening.
people are going to be privy to them.
Yeah, exactly.
You know,
So they'd have to either beat the champions, the Chiefs, or a reinvigorated and determined Ravens team that is led by a more mature quarterback now in Lamar Jackson. I don't know if they can get past either of those two teams, but I think that they can easily be in the mix. I think that they could beat either of them. They did. They beat both those teams last season, but the Ravens in the playoffs and the Chiefs during regular season. But I think it'll just be hard to say. It depends on how, it goes back to Derrick Henry. Really, in Derrick Henry, we trust when it comes to that team. So we'll see.
Right.
But the third, or the guy I was tossing up between AJ Brown and this person, was my man Hunter Renfrow of the Las Vegas Raiders. I fucking love Hunter Renfrow. Oh my god, dude.
He went to Clemson, didn't he?
He went to Clemson, and he didn't drop a pass for like 4 years, even going back to high school. But then he like dropped his first pass in the league. It was really funny. But receiver for the Raiders, he's their slot guy. I love Hunter Renfrow just because he's the type of receiver that has the football IQ to know like what Derek Carr wants. Like he knows Derek Carr's the type of guy that's going to dump off, right? So he doesn't go that far downfield. He's never on routes where he just like flies. He's always their safety net. They play him like Wes Welker was played in New England, or like
Danny Amendola.
Danny Amendola. A lot of like those types of guys. Even, in the early part of his career, Cooper Kupp was kind of played that way too. I just see Hunter Renfrow play, and he just kind of has that sort of like intelligence that you look for in a wide receiver, especially a slot receiver. And when you have a quarterback like Derek Carr who needs a lot of, options, and he needs to be able to dump it off, you get
that's putting it lightly.
It's very very beneficial to have a guy like that on the team. I think Hunter Renfrow is going to benefit a lot because also Darren Waller is going to garner a lot of attention from the defense, from opposing defenses, I should say.
Dude.
So
you got to mention my boy, Roll Tide, Josh Jacobs.
Oh yeah, of course. Josh Jacobs as well is going to garner a lot of attention.
Top 7 running backs in the league, in my opinion.
It's like in basketball, when you double the star, you leave a guy open, and if the guy that's open can knock down a three, you're playing a game at that point. Like, you're not going to just be able to walk out of that easy, and that's what Hunter Renfrow affords the Raiders. He's their, as you love to say, for a lot of comparisons, he's their Steve Blake.
That's very true.
He's the Raiders' Steve Blake. He also has the hairline of Steve Blake. Gotta love it.
He's their 2 guard coming off the bench that sinks nine points in the fourth quarter.
Exactly. That's Hunter Renfrow. He's their JJ Barea from the Dallas Mavericks when they won the championship back in 2011. Great Dallas Mavericks team.
I actually like the Las Vegas Raiders, as much as it pains me to say Las Vegas Raiders. I actually like the Las Vegas Raiders this year. I think with the new playoff format, they can get in there.
Yeah.
Especially off the back of Josh Jacobs. I'm a big, big believer in Josh Jacobs. Any running back that comes out of Bama, with the exception of maybe Kenyon Drake. Kenyon Drake is probably the worst running back to come out of Bama in the last couple of years, and Kenyon Drake is still a very quality running back.
Yeah. It's just relatively speaking, he would be the worst.
Yeah, relatively speaking to people like Derrick Henry, Josh Jacobs, Mark Ingram. I mean, these guys are studs.
Yeah.
So, yeah, no, I would agree with you. I think Hunter Renfrow is a player to keep your eye on in that running back receiver slot on your fantasy team.
Yeah, I totally agree. 100%. Now this is what I've been waiting to talk about. And it's going to upset some people, and I'm sorry in advance. But if I had the number 1 pick in our league, I would not draft Christian McCaffrey.
This is your hot take?
This is my hot take. Christian McCaffrey is going
Sounds like a cold take.
Christian McCaffrey is going to finish as the running back 10 this season.
Wow, says Owen Wilson.
Yeah. I don't think fantasy players are thinking too much about Christian McCaffrey. It's like with David Johnson a couple years ago where people just were like, oh yeah, of course it's going to be him. When there was only like one season to go off of where he had that kind of production. And you have to look. Ron Rivera was the coach last season for the Panthers. That coaching staff is now gone. Many of those people are out in, DC now.
Now it's pretty much Baylor.
It's basically, exactly.
It's the Baylor Panthers.
It's the Baylor. Is it the Baylor? I thought it was Baylor Bears, but.
Well, now it's the Baylor Panthers.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, sure. So, I don't think that Christian McCaffrey is going to be able to do nearly anything that he did. He was on, I believe, 98% of plays last season. He played in 98% of the plays. Right. Everything ran through that guy. And honestly, I just don't see that happening again. He had a great season last year. I'm not discrediting him at all, but to have him be your number 1 guy and expecting him to produce like that again, one, not only would that just be unhealthy for Christian McCaffrey, like no athlete should be used that heavily because it inherently will shorten their career. I mean, yeah. So when you look at that from that perspective, and then you also look at just the coaching style, they didn't draft. They paid Teddy Bridgewater for a reason. They actually have a quarterback now, where last year they had Kyle Allen, who...
Well, I mean, they may have a quarterback for a couple games. Let's be honest about Teddy Bridgewater. He's not exactly, dependable.
I like Teddy Bridgewater. I think he's going to start every game. I don't think he's going to get hurt.
Really?
I'd put money on
it. That in itself is a hot take.
I'd put money on it. I don't think he's going to get hurt.
Well, I mean, I like Teddy Bridgewater's talent. I like how he's able to spread the ball around. But, I mean, the big question is, how long can he stand upright? Are you a believer in the Panthers' offensive line?
No, and that's why I'm not a believer in Christian McCaffrey. In my mock draft, which I didn't do, but if I were to make a mock draft, I would have Christian McCaffrey going in the second round, the first pick of the second round.
I agree.
Yeah, he would not be my one.
I'm not sold on Christian McCaffrey this year either, and that pains me because he's a NorCal guy, Stanford.
Yeah.
And he carried me for a large part to my lone championship in the closest podcast AFL La Liga Alvarado.
Yeah.
But no, I agree with you. But foolishly, I think someone is going to pick Christian McCaffrey in the top 5, which I think bodes well for everyone in the back half of the draft.
I hope so. I have the 3rd pick. I'm very curious to see where I'm going to go with it because I honestly don't even know. There's no clear-cut way to go with that pick. I mean, I'm pretty sure Christian McCaffrey's going 1 still. I'm pretty sure Saquon's going 2. And at
you're
that point,
in the proverbial trade down.
If I could trade down, I would totally trade down. If I could trade down with my dad, because my dad, Ruben the Kitty's Titties Alvarado, he has the 10th pick and the 1st pick of the 2nd round. If I could get both of those picks for the 3rd, I would totally do it. I love those spots. Being the last,
you should be able to trade picks in fantasy football. They should incorporate that.
I just don't understand. Like, if you just trade every pick you have for the 1st overall pick, like, how the hell are you just going to get waivers? Is that really?
No, you should just be able to switch positions.
Maybe. I think you could already do that, but I would have to allow it and stuff and figure it out. But
as the Paul Tagliabue of our league.
Yeah, exactly. But as the Teddy Long of our league.
Listen here, player.
But yeah, that's my hot take. I'm not a believer in Christian McCaffrey this year. But even finishing 10th in running backs isn't that bad. It's just compared to where he would get drafted as number 1 overall.
Right.
Not really. It doesn't really, makes sense.
I think he'll have a year similar to James Conner. I think he'll get 800 yards because the Panthers literally ran it out of him. I think the Panthers will be competing with the Falcons for the last place in that division.
Really?
To be 100%
Yeah,
honest with you.
I don't disagree.
And I feel the Panthers will be the last team in that division.
Do you have? That's a pretty hot take, but do you have another? Do you have any one? Do you have one more hot, spicy take for us before we?
I got a hot take.
We jump into weekly Rex. We'll just do one each for weekly Rex, and we'll call it a day. But I'm curious, what's your take?
I got a hot take.
Say it like Stephen A. Smith. Say Stephen A. Smith.
If you're looking for anyone to get you the points you need, then you look no further than the Indianapolis Colts. I think the Indianapolis Colts this year have 4 players that you could get off their offense. One of which is a shoo-in to be a stud for you, and that's T.Y. fucking Hilton. T.Y. Hilton, in my opinion, is going to have a rebound year, and I'm looking at him to have over 1,000 yards this season.
I love that.
Somewhere between 8 to 10 touchdowns. Last year, I believe he was injured. He only had around 500 receiving yards.
Yeah.
But I mean, for Christ's sakes, their quarterback was Jacoby Brissett. The Colts weren't exactly, it all runs through the quarterback.
Yeah.
Shame to say. But I think T.Y. Hilton, 1,000 yards, 8 to 10 touchdowns. I think it would be a good year for Phillip Rivers. Last year,
are you a believer in fuckboy Phil?
I'm not a believer so much in Phillip Rivers as I am in the talent around him.
Okay.
Last year, Phillip Rivers, even though statistically he had like 21 touchdowns and 20 interceptions, he still threw for 4,600 yards.
Yeah.
The Chargers offense in no way, shape, or form can hold water to the Indianapolis Colts offense. On the offensive line, there's a surefire Hall of Famer in Indianapolis named Quentin Nelson.
True.
Who went to Notre Dame.
Oh yeah. 100%, yeah.
And this is where, if the Indianapolis Colts utilize these 2 guys, they could do some damage in the AFC South and compete with the Tennessee Titans. Hopefully not.
Is it Darlin Marlin?
It's Marlon Mack, who had over 1,000 yards last season, 8 touchdowns, but also rookie Jonathan Taylor
Yeah.
is someone to look out for. In his time at Wisconsin, he was the fastest player to gain 6,000 yards over a 3-year span.
Jeez.
Melvin Gordon, who, I'm indifferent about, but
who's on the Broncos now,
but was a stud collegiate running back.
Yes.
Can't hold a candle to Jonathan Taylor. If they can successfully rotate Jonathan Taylor and Marlon Mack through the offense, keeping them fresh over 4 quarters, alleviating the pressure off the receiving core, man, I think T.Y. Hilton and Phillip Rivers are in for a big year. Phillip Rivers statistically, T.Y. Hilton fantasy-wise, I think, that's my hot take. Look at the offense for the Indianapolis Colts.
I like that pick. I love that. I love everything about it, because just like our conversation a couple of days ago that we had, I have always wanted T.Y. Hilton on my roster. I've always wanted him on my fantasy football roster, and I just haven't been able to get him for, just bad luck. But if I could get him this year, it would make me the happiest. I truly believe that Keenan Allen is a worse receiver than T.Y. T.Y. is a far better receiver, in my opinion. He's had to deal with a lot less, and he's gotten a lot more. And especially in the 2 years without Andrew Luck. Obviously, when Andrew Luck was there, things were a lot different. It was a totally different situation. But in the 2 years without Andrew Luck, he was still able to get his, much like DeAndre Hopkins. Was able to get his in the years of Matt Schaub and Brock Osweiler in Houston. So I love the pick, and I really hope you're right, because it would be really awesome to see that that Indianapolis defense pop off. I'd really love it.
Offense.
Or offense, I'm sorry. Yes, offense, not defense.
So yeah, that's my hot take. I'm no fan of the Indianapolis Colts franchise. I'm indifferent towards them, but I'm expecting them to be like a top 7 offense in the league this year.
I agree. So my last question for you before we do weekly recs, and we just need a number because we will probably revisit the NFL maybe after week 1 or so to talk about, you know, the goings on in the league and stuff, and maybe our predictions for the season. But the team everyone's been talking about, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. what would you say is their record ending the season, and do they make the playoffs or not?
Let me pull up their schedule. But in Tampa Bay, the player that I think is going to benefit the most is going to be Mike Evans.
Oh, of course, yeah.
If he could form a rapport with Tom Brady, then I really think Mike Evans could have a real standout year. The biggest thing with Mike Evans is that he drops the ball a lot.
Yeah.
So if he can course correct that, he could be a fantasy stud. I mean, I don't think Gronk is going to have like a real stellar year, to be honest with you. I think he's mainly going to be used to block.
Yeah.
O.J. Howard. I think O.J. Howard's going to have a good year. But looking at the Buccaneers schedule, week 1, September 13th. That's 2 weeks from now. They're at the Superdome in New Orleans. That's a loss, in my opinion.
Right.
I mean, depending on Drew Brees, according to the eye test, I just see Drew Brees getting worse and worse every year. I don't know if other people see it, but I see it. But then, I mean, so after the Saints, you got Buccaneers versus Panthers, Chargers, and Bears. That should be a 4-piece dub. They should be going into week 6 against Green Bay 4-1. Now, I do have them losing to Green Bay, so they'd be 4-2. And then they're at Las Vegas against the Raiders. To me, that's a pick'em game. It's in Las Vegas, new stadium.
No
turnout
fans.
will be. Oh yeah, that's right. I didn't think about that. I was thinking turnout would be hype, but regardless, I like the Raiders, especially if it runs through Josh Jacobs. If he can keep Tom Brady on the sideline.
Yeah.
If he can keep, Chris Goodwin?
Yeah.
Chris Goodwin's pretty fucking good too.
I just want to say real quick, just toss in this thought, food for thought. I think that the Raiders defense is going to surprise a lot of people because Jonathan Abrams is back. And I think him and
Max Crosby
and all those rookies from last year, I think are going to come even more alive this upcoming season, and they're going to wreak havoc on that Tampa Bay offensive line. That's why I think that they are going to lose. But anyways, keep going.
Yeah, I'm inclined to agree with you. I think Las Vegas is going to surprise a lot of people this year. I mean, with the Chiefs in your division, tough to say.
Yeah.
Patrick Mahomes seems like he might be the second coming of Christ. But I mean, I'm looking at Tampa Bay and I'm thinking, what would it be now? 10-7?
Yeah.
I'm looking at 10-7, maybe 11-6.
You mean 10-6?
Well, isn't there an extra week in the regular season?
I don't think that starts until next year.
Oh, okay. Well, then, yeah, it'd be somewhere in that 10-6 range. Yeah, you're right. The adjustment to the season schedule is next year. The playoff format is this year.
Yeah, exactly.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Yeah. I do think that Tampa Bay will make the playoffs due to the playoff format. I mean, the Panthers, I think you're going to be duds. The Falcons, duds. It's really, how long can Drew Brees keep going?
So you really think it's more of a matter of the division getting worse as opposed to Tampa Bay getting better?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. That division has fallen precipitously. you know, ever since Atlanta lost to Tom Brady in what was the biggest comeback in Super Bowl history, they have not been the same mentally.
They took
They
the
have
soul.
all,
They took the soul of the South.
they literally took the soul of the South. And it's ironic that it was from the most racist city in America. But
Civil War Part 2, man.
yeah. I mean it is crazy. They have all the talent, in the world. Julio Jones, top 3 receiver in the league. Calvin Ridley, top 15 receiver in the league.
Yeah.
They got studs on defense. And Dan Quinn is a good coach.
Yeah, he
But
is.
mentally, they have not been able to get past what Bill Belichick did to him.
Yeah. I can't. That's crazy how long how that Super Bowl has haunted that team ever since. It's crazy.
Right. And then you got Carolina.
Yeah.
Right? Do we even need to say it? They literally have one solid player on their offense, McCaffrey. I couldn't tell you another person on Carolina's team off the top of my head besides Teddy Bridgewater. I mean, who were their receivers?
Is Ted Ginn Jr. still there? I don't know.
Exactly. I don't know who their tight end is. I don't know who their receivers are.
Yeah, Greg Olson's gone. Is Greg Olson still there?
I have no idea. I have no idea who their studs are on defense.
Yeah, they're a whole new team. They're in the same boat as the Steelers, but at least the Panthers do understand that they need to change. That's why they got rid of Rivera, and
I'm sitting in the darkness like Batman.
It's good, but yeah, it's going to be a very interesting fantasy football season, and I really hope that helped you guys, gave you guys some guidance going into your drafts. But now it is time for weekly recommendations. Yay! All right, I think the best thing we can do, I think doing one each is the move for this week. We're already running a little long on time, but I know that there's a show that you've been wanting to recommend for some time.
Yeah.
Right, Quinn?
So I guess the show I would recommend is a new show on HBO, and it is titled Lovecraft Country. And right now we're 3 episodes in, and each episode has been stunningly well done. Absolutely amazingly well done. I want to get this right, so I'm going to look up who the writer and the showrunner is. But essentially what Lovecraft Country is it's a show that deals with cosmic horror, sci-fi, fantasy elements, and it takes the racist history of H.P. Lovecraft, flips it and turns it to a metaphor, anecdotal for widespread racism in the 60s. The story starts at the end of the Korean War, and it follows its main protagonist, who is played brilliantly by, I'm pulling up his name, by Jonathan Majors, who's relatively new on the scene. If you saw Spike Lee's last film, Defy Bloods, he was featured in that. He was really good in that. The cast also features Journey Smollett, who was amazing in episode 3, and 2 fucking legends, Courtney B. Vance and Michael K. Williams, who is fucking fantastic. If you don't know who Michael K. Williams is, fucking cut your life off and go watch The Wire.
Oh yeah,
and it's just an amazingly stunning show. The VFX are spectacular, and you're talking about dealing with wizardry, sorcery, astral spirits, monsters. I mean, Lovecraftian monsters. Wolves with 1,000 eyes and tendrils coming out from their body.
Yeah,
it's beautifully well acted. The cinematography is top notch. The writing is amazing. I believe it's written by Misha Green. Yeah, by Misha Green. The soundtrack is great, and it's one of these shows that I literally can't talk about because it is so great. it would be doing a disservice to anyone who is interested in seeing it and talking about it. But basically, the plot follows the main protagonist, who I explained earlier. His name is Atticus. He goes by Tick. He returns from the Korean War. He gets to investigate the disappearance of his father, played by the great Michael K. Williams.
Yeah.
And he has to go into Arkham Country. For those of you who aren't in the know, you may hear the word Arkham and you think Arkham Asylum, Batman? No. Arkham originated in the books of H.P. Lovecraft. So they're essentially traveling into a racist country.
Yeah.
The heart of racism, it's widespread, but in this particular part of the country, this is, the nexus of their troubles.
Right.
Fucking beautiful. Amazingly well done. I can't recommend it enough. If you got nothing to do on your Sunday nights, get HBO and start watching Lovecraft Country. It is top notch. It is the best scripted program I've seen from HBO in the last decade, and that includes Game of Thrones. The first 4 seasons, which I thought were flawless, this show exceeds them.
Wow. That is huge praise, especially from you. That's amazing. Holy shit.
Yeah, dude. It is so well connected, and how it blends historical elements with cosmic horror fantasy elements. The only comparison I can offer, I was thinking about this the other day, the only person who's taken history and flipped it as well as Quentin Tarantino.
Okay.
Lovecraft Country, watch it. Book it. It's as surefire as bet as Derrick Henry. I'm really hoping Derrick Henry has a great year now.
Yeah, I do too. I love it, man. I definitely need to give it a shot. I need to get an HBO subscription again. I've been lacking on that.
Right.
But yeah, I've been meaning to watch it, man. And I mean, that endorsement saying that it's better than the first 4 seasons of Game of Thrones, pretty heavy words. And
the first 3 episodes,
wow,
are far better than anything I've seen on Game of Thrones.
That's amazing. Well,
and that's not to discourage Game of Thrones. Game of Thrones is one of the top 5 shows of all time.
Yeah.
Excluding the last 2 seasons. But this show's first 3 episodes are just, there's levels to it, and this one is a level above.
Definitely going to check it out. You guys should check it out too, our fellow listeners. But my recommendation for this episode is an album from one of Texas's own community, from the Texas community, alternative rock community. They're called Narrowhead. That is the band's name, and they just put out an album called 12th House Rock. It is their sophomore album, and I believe they put it out through Run for Cover Records. This grungy, pop-punky, ambient band really pulled out all the stops with this record. There are 13 songs, all averaging close to about 4 minutes each. So there's a lot of content here. If you're looking for something that you can kind of just throw on in the background, nothing that you necessarily can like sink your teeth into like Lovecraft Country, but something that if you need something to kind of get you through maybe a lazy Sunday or something, this is definitely an album for you. My favorite song from this album is Stuttering Stanley. It's very 90s in its feel, with the tones that they use on the guitars. Very, very reminiscent of the Seattle sound of the 90s with Nirvana and Pearl Jam and all that. They can definitely tell.
Okay, cool.
You can definitely tell the influence between from those bands of the 90s on this album. So very, very great album. Honestly surprised me. I've been recommended to listen to them for a minute, and I wish I would have sooner. The thing about this band is that it is a little difficult to maybe make out some of the words that are said from the vocalist. I personally love that. I personally don't mind not knowing what the vocalist is saying. For me, it's more it's more about the melody than the words said personally for me. But I know most people are not that way. I'm in the minority in that. A lot of
Right.
people, they care about the words. So
I'm in the opposite camp. Yeah.
yeah. So depending on, it's not like it's a make it or break it thing. Like, you can still understand what he's saying. It's just some of the things, he's not the best vocalist, and he's not the most clean in his delivery on certain phrases, but to me that gives it charm. But if you're more of a clean type of vocalist, listener, you like to be able to interpret everything very, very clearly, then maybe this will not be 100% for you, but I still implore you to check it out and see if you like it or not. Just give it a shot.
I'm glad you clarified on their 90s sound, because when you first said that, I was thinking of like the New Radicals or Spin Doctors.
Oh, yeah.
You only get what you give.
Yeah, no, not like that.
And let me clarify, though I consistently defecate on the people of Seattle, we are defined by our own hypocrisies. Pearl Jam is one of my top 3, top 5 greatest bands of all time.
Even flow. That fucking song.
You remember in SNL when Adam Sandler used to do a bit on Eddie Vedder?
No, that was before my time. But
oh man,
I'll look it up though. There's another recommendation. Check out that Eddie Vedder.
Oh man, I'm drawing a blank. But what was the Pearl Jam song? Where it's like, oh man, embarrassing, fail. Fuck it.
Well, we'll get them next time. For next week, we'll recommend that skit for next week, and we'll clarify for everybody. So no worries at all. But I think that's all we got for this episode of the Closers Podcast. Please follow us on Instagram at The Closers Podcast, on Facebook at Closers Podcast, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. We are The Closers Podcast. Please share these episodes with your favorite people so we can build a community of favorite people, because it would be really cool to just have everybody's favorite people talk to everyone else's favorite people, because then we have a community of just really great folks. And it's always fun.
A rare collection of assholes.
A very rare collection of assholes. Why not? So please share these episodes with your friends, family, significant others, and coworkers. And listen to our previous episodes. We have been doing a cult series with our friend Gabriella Elwell. The first episode was on Jonestown. That was put out around the middle of August. Last week, we put out an episode on Waco, and that, tragedy that occurred in that little Texas city, right? It was Texas? Yeah, Waco, Texas. And next week, we're going to have Gabriella back on to finish out our 3-part cult series, and we're going to talk about NXIVM. Last week, if you listened to the whole episode all the way through, I recommended to listen or to watch the documentary series that's on NXIVM on HBO. Still check it out if you haven't already, in time for the NXIVM episode that we're going to put out next week. So hope you guys are excited for that, because we definitely are. But without further ado, we will bid you an adieu. For Quinn, Kalani, and the Closers Podcast, I am Mark Alvarado, and we will talk to you next week.